Genesis Part 1 Ascended and Tides of Fortune have taken players across dangerous oceans aboard completely buildable ships. But for Genesis Ascended Part 2, Studio Wildcard apparently wants to take that entire concept to its next and much bigger stage, outer space. Starfighter, dogfights, enormous capital ships, massive main cannons, and battles where players can continue moving around inside a spaceship even while it rotates and flips around them. This is Bob's True Tales Galaxy Wars, a premium expansion currently planned to launch alongside Genesis Ascended Part 2 during Q2 2027. And Studio Wildcard have a big job here, so if they successfully deliver everything being discussed, this again could be a huge gameplay change, very similar to the new ocean biome. So today we're going to look at what's currently planned for Genesis Ascended Part 2, everything we've heard about Galaxy Wars, and what could return from the original version of this extremely unusual map. But just a reminder that we're still a long way away from release. Q2 2027 means the current window runs somewhere between April and June 2027, but we don't have an exact date yet. Features could also evolve during development, so I'll clearly separate what's actually being discussed from my own expectations and speculation. But if you enjoyed today's video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe and let me know what your favourite thing was about Genesis Part 2 in ARK Survival Evolved. So let's first explain how these two releases are expected to work like the old one. So Genesis Ascended Part 2 is currently planned as a free DLC for owners of ARK Survival Ascended, and this will be the remastered version of the original map with its creatures, missions, environments and story content. Launching alongside that will be Bob's True Tales Galaxy Wars. Galaxy Wars will be the paid expansion, adding the new premium gameplay systems and additional story content built around space battles, starfighters, and large-scale spaceship combat. It sounds very similar to the approach we have just experienced with Genesis Part 1 and Tides of Fortune. The main remastered map is made available as free content, while the premium expansion introduced a completely new style of gameplay that goes far beyond the original version. Tides of Fortune focus heavily on ships, sailing, and building mobile bases across the ocean. Galaxy Wars is expected to take that same basic fantasy of commanding a crew aboard a moving vessel and launch it directly into outer space. But before we get to the new expansion, what exactly was Genesis Part 2? The original Genesis Part 2 was the final major story DLC release for ARK Survival Evolved. Unlike most traditional ARK maps, Genesis Part 1 was set aboard an absolutely enormous colony ship travelling through deep space in search for a habitable planet. The ship was divided into two gigantic rings. One side contained the much more peaceful and visually beautiful Eden Zone. This was filled with green landscapes, rivers and waterfalls and enormous futuristic structures. The other ring had been overtaken by Rockwell. The corrupted side of the ship featured twisted environments, dangerous creatures and some of the most disturbing locations ARK has ever created. Connecting the two sides was the central space region. This area contained changing asteroid fields filled with resources, and as the colony ship travelled through hyperspace, the asteroid environment could change, giving players access to different materials. That entire concept should look incredible inside ARK Survival Ascended. Genesis Part 2 has already had some of the most distinctive science fiction environments in the franchise, and rebuilding those environments with improved lighting, materials, and atmospheric effects could make the Ascended version feel dramatically different. The map also contained numerous missions that players could complete for rewards, and these range from races and hunts to combat encounters and other challenges spread through the colony ship. Genesis Part 2 was also a heavily endgame focused map. Players had access to powerful equipment, advanced resources, and some of the strongest creatures in ARK. That includes the Maywing, which quickly became one of the most useful mobility and breeding creatures in the game, but obviously Studio Wildcard gave us the Mayguana with Astraeus. The Shadow Main became an extremely powerful combat mound, and especially when used in groups. The Noglin could control other players and creatures, creating some very unusual opportunities during PvP, and if you're an old school Ark Survival Evolved PvP player, you will know how broken that used to be. The Text Rider provided incredible harvesting compatibilities, while the Void Worm brought a corrupted mechanical wyvern into the space biome. We also had the Astradelphis, essentially a weaponized space dolphin capable of flying through the map's central space region. Genesis Part 2 introduced all creature variants, as well as giving familiar creatures new appearances and different stat distributions. All of this is expected to form the foundation of Genesis Ascended Part 2, although Studio Wildcard has not yet revealed exactly how every creature, mission and environment will be changed for the remaster. That's the free side of this release. Galaxy Wars is where things become completely new. Jeremy has described, who is the CEO of Studio Wildcard, outer space as the next stages of ARK's premium gameplay upgrades following the introduction of the sailing ships. The plans include dogfights between spaceships and battles involving enormous capital ships equipped with massive main cannons. That description alone opens up an entirely different type of ARK combat. Instead of simply riding a flying creature attacking another player, we could potentially have dedicated starfighters designed specifically for fast-paced combat. Now, being completely honest, as much as this all sounds very exciting, it also scares me when it comes to the performance in ARK Survival Ascended. Players might be chasing each other around capital ships, avoiding cannon fire, and attempting to disable or destroy enemy vessels. Then we have the capital ships themselves. These sounds like they could become the space equivalent of the massive galleon coming to Tides of Fortune, but potentially even on a greater scale. Capital ships are normally designed to operate with a full crew. You might have one player controlling the ship, while others operate the weapons, its interior, and perform repairs or launch smaller fighters. To be completely clear, those individual crew roles have not been confirmed yet. However, if Galaxy Wars expands upon the multiplayer ship systems being developed for Tides of Fortune, coordinated tribe gameplay would be the natural direction for it to take. One of the most interesting confirmed technical ambitions is the local gravity system. The plan for the spaceship to retain its own gravity regardless of angle or movement. That means the ship could rotate, flip upside down, or perform maneuvers during a dogfight while the players inside it continue walking around normally. From the perspective of someone inside the ship, the floor should remain beneath them as the entire vessel changes direction in space. That sounds simple when it's described, but technically it's a massive challenge. The game needs to track the movement and the rotation of the spaceship while also synchronizing every player, structure, creature, and potentially loose object inside of it. Then it needs to communicate all of that correctly across an online server. ARK has already managed creatures, players, bases, and vehicles interacting with one another, but Galaxy Wars could add huge moving environments containing their own internal gravity and possibly hundreds of individual structures. That's why network synchronization and physics calculations were specifically described as an exciting challenge for the programmers. If the technology works properly, the possibilities are enormous here. Imagine walking through the interior of your tribe's capital ship while starfighters battle outside the windows. Cannons are firing, the ship is turning to face an enemy vessel, and different members of the tribe are moving around inside preparing for combat. The ship could potentially function as a mobile base, a carrier for smaller fighters, and your tribe's primary weapon at all the same time. And once again, we don't know the final building limits or exactly how customizable these spacecrafts will be. However, Tides of Fortune is already introducing technology intended to support much larger numbers of player-built structures on ships. The Galleon is planned to provide more than 300 player-built structures, with technical improvements increasing the ship's structure limits by up to 4 times, depending on the ship's class. It's reasonable to wonder whether some of that work is also laying the technical foundation for Galaxy Wars. And that is my interpretation rather than something that Studio Wildcard has directly confirmed, but the progression makes sense. First, Wildcard develops larger ocean vessels, multiplayer crews, and more advancing moving structure systems. The next stage is when it takes those lessons into space, adding local gravity, starfighters, and capital ship combat. Galaxy Wars could also be the perfect match for the original Genesis Part 2 setting. The colony ship is already travelling through deep space, the map already has futuristic equipment, asteroid fields, technology, and creatures designed to survive beyond a traditional planet. This kinda means that Galaxy Wars shouldn't feel like an unrelated feature being attached to the map. Space battles are a natural expansion of what Genesis Part 2 was already trying to achieve. There are still plenty of unanswered questions, but we'll find out more closer to launch. I'm very, very excited to see what happens with the future launch of Genesis Ascended Part 2. Obviously, it's a long way away, so we've got time to wait, and Studio Wildcard have lots planned way before this, such as Dragantopia. But it's definitely something to think about in the future and look forward to. If you are looking for somewhere to play Genesis Part 1 while we wait for everything coming next, you can join us in the LoadedCrysis cluster. The cluster is completely free to play, features every available ARK Survival Ascended map, and has a friendly, active admin team. We offer boosted rates, cross-map transfers, regular events, giveaways, and we add to AIM every major new map from day one. You can find the LoadedCrysis Discord using the link in the description down below. Genesis Part 2 Ascended and Galaxy Wars are currently planned for Q2 2027, so we still have plenty of time before this enormous release arrives. But thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.